Okay, next up, we're going to talk about choosing and discernment. This is a big area of conversation. I got to expect in your coaching conversations. It certainly is a big one in our office hours conversations and our client work. Um, Wherever your design process leads is going to lead to making some decisions, and in some cases, very big and important decisions about which people really care. This fits right into our life design model, the three-layered model we use in the full class, and the discovery and support layer. What are the practices and tools that allow you over time to do this well? With discernment, with the support of mentors and community, is a very, very big deal. So how do we go about choosing? We want to be mindful of process. So what is your choosing process? We're helping people answer the age-old question: how do you know when you know? I mean, how do you? I mean, is this it? Am I doing the right thing? I mean, I did all that stuff. Am I sure? And how can people be as sure as they deserve to be anyway? So we have a process for decision making. By the way, this is about as close to a lecture as we ever try to do in class. It probably goes 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to do a slightly longer version today because normally in the live sessions, we don't have time to go into this. We could go for hours and hours on this, get a master's in this. But I'm going to give you, frankly, a fair number of video clips from other smarter than us guys who've done the real research talking about these things to support some of these ideas, which hopefully you'll find really interesting. You also might, by the way, this was recorded in the pandemic era of 2020, and there are lots of people and dogs in my house today, so you might get some exciting background noise that has nothing to do with decision making, but that's the decision we already made, just to have all those children and dogs. So step one, gather and create. Give yourself lots of options. Hey, we've been doing all kinds of stuff in life design to give yourself more options and more possibilities to curate your curiosity and prototype possibilities. Then you're going to narrow that big list down to an actionable size. Then you're going to choose. You're going to make a choice, do the hard work, and then, of course, agonize. Oh, did I do the right thing? No, we don't want to do that step four. Do a different step four, which is let go and move on. We'll give you a background on each one of these. Now let's zoom in on gather and create, which again, I've already been working on a lot. But here's some insight from Tony Hsieh about good at being lucky. The whole issue of what is this about? Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos, was very successful and got asked to talk about how he did it a lot. So he runs around the world talking about the corporate culture of Zappos that he built, his 10 attributes. He's talking about one of these in a talk he gave at the business school a while back. And his conversation brings up something that fits right into this discussion for us. Let's see what Tony has to say.
Core value number 4, be adventurous, creative, and open-minded. So one of our interview questions here is on a scale 1 to 10, how lucky are you in life? 1 is, I don't know why bad things always seem to happen to me. And 10 is, I don't know why good things always seem to happen to me. Well, we don't want to hire the ones because they're bad luck, and we don't want bad luck to come to Zappos. That wouldn't be good. No, but this was actually inspired by a research study that I had read about several years earlier, where they actually asked that exact same question to a random group of people. And they got some 1s, some 10s, a bunch of answers in between. And then afterwards, they had them do a task. And the task was to go through a newspaper and count the number of photos that were in that newspaper. But what the participants didn't know was that it was actually a fake newspaper. And sprinkled throughout the newspaper were these headlines that would say things like, if you're reading this now, you can stop. The answer is 37, plus collect an extra $100. And what they found was that the people that consider themselves unlucky in life generally never noticed the headlines. They went through the task and eventually came up with the right answer, whereas the people that consider themselves lucky in life generally stopped early and made the extra $100. So the takeaway is that it's not so much that people are inherently lucky or unlucky in life, but luck is really more about being open to opportunity beyond just how the task or situation presents itself.
So what Tony is bringing to light is this thing about luck is really about peripheral vision. How come really cool things always fall in his lap or her lap? Well, because they're paying attention. And so if you want to, it's often said in business, it's good to be good, it's better to be lucky, and it's best to be good at being lucky. Well, this is literally the science behind being good at being lucky. So you're paying attention. So when you're talking about lots of options, one of the ways people get options is by paying attention and looking side to side. Oh, that's so interesting. There's an information interview, or there's a life design prototype conversation lurking around every cubicle if you're paying the right kind of attention. Now, moving to step 2, narrow the list down, between our design ideas and being good at being lucky. We got lots of options now. And so maybe we're running into this problem of feeling a little overwhelmed with choice, because there's so many jams, there's so many different jams and jellies out there, which is in fact a real study done at Columbia, the famous jam study, where we took a look at this issue. We look at this issue by going into a store and we set up the specialty jam table, like in a Whole Foods or something like that, a New Leaf store and organic store. And first time we do that, we put 6 jams out on the table and we watched to see how many people stop by. And of those who stop by, how many buy something? So is this attractive? Is this interesting? Well, I'm sure it is. Hey, let's go take a look. About 40% of the people who come to the store stop and look at the jam table. So roughly a third. Now, do you think anybody buys stuff? Hey, we're Americans, sure we do. That's kind of, kumquat bee's knees. Let's give that a try. About a third of the people stop. So a third stop and a third of those who stop buy. Wait 2 weeks, come back, same store, a little bigger table. Now we're going to put out 24 jams. 24 jams. Oh my goodness. Now, here's the question. Do more people stop or do fewer people stop? By the way, most people tell us, oh, but fewer. Actually, of course, a lot more, 60%. Almost everybody stopped. Like upwards of 2/3 of the people stop and go, ooh, why? Why do they do that? Because oh, wow, look at all that jam. Oh my God. We love options and we love choice. That's so interesting. Now, does anybody buy anything? No. A whopping 3% of the people buy. Virtually nobody buys. So lots of options, tons of interest, no actionability. Why? What's going on? Because your brain freezes up. How many choices can your brain actually handle? 4 to 6. Once that list gets beyond 4 to 6, what happens? Nothing happens. Your brain just freezes up. So what do you do if you have that problem? You have helped your client get way more than 4 options and they're stuck now. What are you going to do? Cross some off. Well, how do I do that? You just get a pen. But wait, Dave, wait. What if I cross off the really, really good one? Okay, you'll be saved by the pizza Chinese effect. What is that? Okay, it's Friday afternoon. It's about 11:30. Somebody yells out, hey, Dave, I had lunch yet? No, a couple of us are going to go and grab some lunch. You want to come? Sure, I'm pretty hungry. Hey, we haven't decided it's Chinese or pizza. Do you care? No, not really. I don't care. Then they go, about a minute later, they go, okay, we're going to go and get Chinese. And you go, no, pizza. I want pizza. So how many of you have had that experience? We're together, you all go, yeah, I've had that experience. So the point being, I didn't know until I heard that they were going to the wrong restaurant called a Chinese restaurant that I really wanted pizza. The decision-making process is internal in such a way that while I'm looking at my options, it's really at the moment of decision-making, which is very different than option collection, that I really understand where I'm coming from. So your own intuition will prevent you from crossing off the wrong thing. If you cross off the wrong thing, you'll know. Now, by the way, your client can't cross off anything. That's not it. They're just terrified. So you got to cross something off. You got to move on. Barry Schwartz at Swarthmore, again, we're going a little deeper here, is actually the guy that really pushed this idea. A good book, some years old now, but the concept is very solid, called The Paradox of Choice. And here's Barry in his own words talking about some of the theory that he actually cooked up.
The second effect is that even if we manage to overcome the paralysis and make a choice, we end up less satisfied with the result of the choice than we would be if we had fewer options to choose from. And there are several reasons for this. One of them is that with a lot of different salad dressings to choose from, if you buy one and it's not perfect, and what salad dressing is, it's easy to imagine that you could have made a different choice that would have been better. And what happens is this imagined alternative induces you to regret the decision you made, and this regret subtracts from the satisfaction you get out of the decision you made, even if it was a good decision.
So the point there being, what Barry's getting at, even if you've got paralysis of overwhelmed choice, and you can't choose, and even you do, having chosen from too many is likely to reduce your satisfaction in even a good choice, because the way your brain beats you up about what could have been. And let's say, I'm talking to you because you're a DYL-oriented coach who wants to help your client. That means your client has spent money and time and intention to try to do a really good job at this life design. They have a lot of really good ideas. They may be, by virtue of your mere existence, expecting you to help them get it right. and to feel great about their decision, as opposed to helping them through the fact that you're going to do the best you can. The fact that you're there as a coach doesn't mean they're going to be brilliant. It means they're going to get through the process, get done, and iterate forward toward a life of thriving and joy. Now let's talk about making a choice. We got to actually make a choice. Well, what's going on in choice making? Well, there's a lot going on in choice making. Again, they're PhDs in decision theory. Dan Goleman is the guy who invented the term emotional intelligence. He wrote the very first book. He's written a bunch of books. He's got a whole career built on the concept of emotional intelligence that he mostly, by the way, is aggregating other people's work and research. And he talks about the role of emotions in decision making. And this is a slightly grittier and longer video than we sometimes use, but because of the format of this remote approach, we're going to give you the 3-minute version. It's a big excerpt out of a talk he gave at Google years ago, where the video, frankly, is crummy, but the audio is fine. And he kind of disappears behind the blackboard now and then. But nonetheless, listen to what he's saying. And we jump into the middle. You'll see a little thing on there, look kind of like an acorn or something, or looks like a cement mixer. That's actually your brain. And it says the amygdala, and this sort of, there's a little picture of the brain going on there, the brainstem and what have you, and what's going on. So we're listening to him talk about your brain and emotions and decisions.
So the first two elements of emotional intelligence have to do with self-mastery, and they are based, this circuitry is the neural platform. The first of these is self-awareness, knowing what I'm feeling, knowing why I'm feeling it. Self-awareness is very important for decision making, particularly personal decision making, but also business or even technical decision making, for quite an interesting reason. There was a study done by a man named Antonio Damasio. He's now at USC. He's an expert on this circuitry. And because he's an expert on this circuitry, a very bright corporate lawyer who unfortunately had a prefrontal brain tumor, which was operated on quite successfully and early, but during the surgery, they snipped the connection between the amygdala and the PFC. This lawyer went to see Damasio because his life was collapsing. And Damasio tested him and couldn't see anything wrong. The lawyer's life had collapsed in this way. He seemed to be able to function just as well after surgery as before, but he couldn't keep his job. He lost his job, couldn't keep any job. His wife left him. He lost his house. He ended up living in his brother's spare bedroom. And in despair, he goes to Damasio. He says, well, you're an expert on this circuitry. Can you figure out what's wrong with me? Damasio gives him a battery of neuropsychological tests. Nothing wrong. Attention, memory, just as good as before surgery. IQ was very high still after surgery as it was before. But he couldn't keep a job. And then Damasio got a clue. He asked him this question: when should we have our next appointment? He realized that the lawyer could give him the rational pros and cons of every hour for the next 2 weeks, but he didn't know which was best. In other words, Damasio argues, when we have a thought, our emotional centers valence it for us. When we're making a decision, our emotional centers prioritize for us. He no longer had that ability. Damasio argues that in order to make a good decision, which strategy should we follow? Should our team go for plan A or plan B? How does this guy compare to the X other guys I've dated? Should I marry this guy or not? Should I leave this job for another? All of those decisions depend on our ability to draw on the wisdom of the emotions. And wisdom of emotions is not just a pretty phrase. It actually refers to something that goes on very low in the brain, in the basal ganglia, its base brain. The basal ganglia observes everything we do in life, every situation, and extracts decision rules. That worked, that didn't work. When I said that, I really blew it. When I said that, it really worked. Our life wisdom on any topic is stored in the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia is so primitive that it has zero connectivity to the verbal cortex. It can't tell us what it knows in words. It tells us in feelings. Has a lot of connectivity to the emotional centers of the brain and to the gut. And it tells us this is right or this is wrong as a gut feeling. So part of self-awareness is the ability to tune into those subtle feelings. And this is very important, for example, not just in decisions, but when it comes to ethics and integrity.
Okay, that's kind of the long form, but I think it really gets at what's going on here. We got particularly into this module, by the way, not choosing at large, particularly the thing about emotional intelligence, on behalf of our PhD students, with whom we got a lot of pushback. You know, I want to make a good decision. I want to make a smart decision. I don't want to make an emotional decision. Like the emotions don't know what the hell they're doing. And in fact, there is no such thing as an unemotional decision. All decisions require a valence, a priority, a preference, which is rooted in a point of view, which is a feeling. You know, there's not right. I mean, bigger is better. Clearly, bigger is better. I should want the bigger car and the bigger brain tumor, right? I mean, bigger is always better. You know, I mean, that's where these are the rational pros and cons of every hour in the week. I can describe to you the attributes of things till the cows come home. But that doesn't tell me what I want. That doesn't tell me what's better or what's true or authentic or meaningful. That's a valenced thing that you want to have access to your emotions for. A little later, we're going to talk about one exercise you can do to help people get in touch with that. But you've got to make a decision that involves lots of ways of knowing, emotional knowing, intuitive. We got to tap into those things, including being able to access what the wisdom of our emotions, you might want to call that the intuition, knows. So again, in summary, the wisdom center, the basal ganglia is base brain, been around forever. What makes us people. You know, we have to valence these decisions, and it's not speaking in words. It's not an articulate, rational thing. This is another key point. It's very easy to believe that because the wisdom of the emotions are not articulate, that they are unsophisticated. Not true. Very sophisticated, just not articulate in words. So don't confuse inarticulate with unsophisticated. The wisdom of your emotions is very sophisticated. It just uses a different vocabulary. So that's not the only thing. Of course, combine EQ, emotional quotient, with IQ, you know, with other action, with feedback, with mentors. You want to give yourself lots of input on your discernment process. Okay, so last step, which is not agonize, but is let go and move on. So you could go all the way through up to this choosing thing and do a really good job. You can make a really good choice and still blow it. That's what Dan Gilbert has looked at in his work on, quote, synthetic happiness, what he calls synthesizing happiness. Not synthetic as in fake, but synthetic as in how do you build it? How do you make it? And the bottom line is, it turns out happy people are happy because they want what they got, not they got what they wanted. And his research goes further and points out another subcorollary of that, which is particularly important relative to this choice-making and paradox of choice options management problem.
You bring in, say, 6 objects, and you ask a subject to rank them from the most to the least liked. In this case, because the experiment I'm going to tell you about uses them, these are Monet prints. So everybody can rank these Monet prints from the one they like the most to the one they like the least. Now we give you a choice. We happen to have some extra prints in the closet, and we're going to give you one as your prize to take home. We happen to have number 3 and number 4, we tell the subject. There's a bit of a difficult choice, because neither one is preferred strongly to the other, but naturally, people tend to pick number 3 because they liked it a little better than number 4. Sometime later, it could be 15 minutes, it could be 15 days, the same stimuli are put before the subject, and the subject is asked to re-rank the stimuli. Tell us how much you like them now. What happens? Watch as happiness is synthesized. This is the result that has been replicated over and over again. You're watching happiness be synthesized. Would you like to see it again? Happiness. The one I got is really better than I thought. That other one I didn't get sucks. That's the synthesis of happiness. Now, people who are stuck with that picture, who have no choice, who can never change their mind, like it a lot. And people who are deliberating, should I return it? Have I gotten the right one? Maybe this isn't the good one. Maybe I left the good one, have killed themselves. They don't like their picture. And in fact, even after the opportunity to swap has expired, they still don't like their picture. Why? Because the Reversible condition is not conducive to the synthesis of happiness.
Okay, I'll jump in here and explain. You're jumping around a little bit in Dan's, I think it's a TEDx talk. So I did the first part of the research, which demonstrates that after you choose something, and then you start to like it more. So this is happiness comes from wanting what you got. Then you keep going, and what they did is they took those people who had been given one of the spare copies to take home with them, and some of them they said, be sure that's the one you really want, because we're done with the study here. We ain't got time to take these things back or swap around. So whatever you get, that's yours. You're stuck. That's the one you got. Don't call us back. And some people, they said, well, hey, we're going to run the study for another 6 weeks. So, the spare inventory might continue. If you change your mind and you want to swap it out for the other one you didn't pick, just give us a call. You can come back down. Then they wait a couple of weeks, and then they evaluate how happy people are with their pictures. And in particular, so person who picked, picture X, took it home, had to keep it. And a whole bunch of people who took picture X, same picture, were told they could swap it for picture Y, didn't. Still kept X. So again, the same period of time, same study, same kind of people, both have the same picture in their house at the same period of time, and the people who had no choice to return it are much happier than the people who could have returned it but just didn't. That's the reversible condition. This is literally, they kept their option open to return the picture, and it drained the joy out of their choice. The reversible condition is not conducive to the synthesis of happiness. Choosing your choice. This is the critical last step of choosing. There's making a choice, then choosing your choice. And once you've actually chosen your choice, not merely made your choice, then your chance of enjoying it goes way up. It's incredible how often people go through an incredibly challenging process of making a good choice and then agonize about it one way or another, or drain the joy out of it by keeping their options open too long, as opposed to like, that's it, I'm committed, I'm good. And by the way, sometimes that commitment to your choice is just a mental discipline. Like, stop thinking about taking it back. So you don't burn the boats necessarily. The boats aren't literally in ashes on the beach, but you may very well be able to personally give yourself the chance to maximize happiness with a choice by deeply choosing it. Bill actually has a practice where he says every day, every choice, everything I do today, I choose to do. He re-chooses his choices in his daily agenda as he goes into the day, and he found it transformative. Okay. We can have a conversation around which one's most challenging for you, what's most interesting in this process. We have a little conversation. We'll have a chance maybe to chat about that a little bit when we get together. The whole point is, have a decision-making process, know what steps you're in, populate them well, and don't get stuck. Don't get stuck on not being able to find an option. Be good at being lucky. Don't get stuck on having too long a list. Know how to narrow it down. Do it courageously. Don't get stuck on choosing. Have lots of input. Understand it's going to be an emotional process and it's going to have some ambiguity. And when you make a choice, go for it in order to make the most out of it. That's choosing.